So now here we are, part 2 with the Biedermeier era 1840s chairs. So here we are. I'm really excited about the next phase of our project, which is putting the horsehair fabric on. This is an import from Germany. And in part 1, we got it up to the cake. We did the webbing, the burlap, we put the cake on, and then for historical preservation, the conservator has asked me to use the old muslin covers, but do not tack them in order to try to preserve the wood. So you can see we have a number 13 on there, which someday, you know, it's important to keep the historic value of some of these older pieces. So now I've pre-cut all my horsehair. What we do is on the horsehair, on any cover, is we measure from the rail to the rail and we add 3 inches overall. That's where you cut your fabric. That's for stretching purposes, the oversize. So here we go. Now I've got my fronts marked with an X to indicate front, and that's with a chalk, not a school chalk, but a special powdered chalk that upholsterers use so as not to stain. So I know that that's my front. So what I'm going to do is, now we're not going to be using cotton. It's another request. We're doing it as original. So the original did not have cotton. We're trying to keep it as historically correct as we can. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drape this over the top. Clean that little piece of chalk up later. That's from the other pieces. I'm getting my stripes lined up. Now horsehair fabric is very unusual fabric in the way it goes on. It's a very stiff fabric, but once it's on, it'll be there for 150 years. It's a little different than some other fabrics, most other fabrics. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go like this. I'm going to show you the back side of the chair first. And we're going to do a series of pin tacking on the back first. So you have to start somewhere. And pin tacking can be done in any tack, but this happens to be a 6-ounce tack. And that's why a magnetic hammer, if you've seen my other videos, the magnetic hammer is wonderful for getting the tack on and tapping. So the pin tacking, when you pin tack anything, you're not going in all the way, you're going in about enough to hold the fabric. Let's put it that way. So sometimes one tap is enough, sometimes you can give another extra tap so that when you stretch it, it doesn't come off. A pin tack is your way of saying, okay, that's not a permanent tack, it's going to come out. So you resign yourself to that. Now I'm going to go to the front of the chair, with the back of the chair the way I want it. In the front of the chair, I'm making sure my stripes are lined up. By the way, in horsehair fabric, traditionally the stripes go front to back. Horsehair fabric is only about 27, 28 inches wide, which is perfect for these dining room chairs. Everything else, it's not so perfect for. So what I'm going to do now is another thing that you need to do on horsehair, because it really frays, as you can see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the fabric. I hardly ever do that. Horsehair is a very specialized fabric for that. You have to close it up. You have to close the ends up. So I'm going to trim it a little bit closer to that wood edge because we don't want too much of a fold. And I'm going to fold it up. Watch this. Fold, and I'm going to stretch it at the same time. That is hardly ever done. Usually in all my other videos you see me stretching the fabric and then pin tacking with the raw edge being shown. Pin tack that. I'm going to stretch here and pin tack down here. Again, a pin tack is, you resign yourself that's probably going to come out, those tacks. I say probably, because sometimes, especially with the stiff fabric, you don't have to do too much more pull. You know, stretching upholstery fabric is one of those things, it's a lost art within my trade. Okay, so now I'm ready to go back and stretch it to the back. Notice how I'm not even concentrating on the sides yet, it's front to back. Okay, so I need to just trim this up a little bit in the back. I'm going to take one side first, I'm going to fold it under. And pin tack again. Pin tack. And take the other side out, folding it under, and I'm stretching it just as much as I can. But notice how I'm helping. I'm not just taking this and stretching. I can go like this a little bit and help it. Okay? Do that. We'll get another pin tack in here. Okay, now I'm going to go to the front to see if it requires another stretch. See, I might not need too much more, so I'm going to leave that like that for now. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to make these cuts. Now, cutting a $500 a yard material for some people can be a little nerve-wracking. But doing it long enough, if for you beginners out there, I don't think you want to start practicing on this fabric. You might want to do some scrap fabrics and go around posts and see how the angles work. But keep in mind, some of the students I've had in the past, like engineers, call this they call this counterintuitive, cutting around posts, because you're actually working backwards, really. That's probably a better description. But now, I have the fabric back folded, and I need to go in at an angle. Now, a mistake a lot of people make is they come at this angle, they square it up, but really that's not truly the square. If you really look at it and try to visualize, it's the square part. If you're looking for a square, it's right back here. So if this was folded this way, you'd get a better idea what I'm talking about. This is a one cut, because this post is pointed towards the inside of the chair. So some posts are flat towards the inside of the chair. This one has a point. So that's actually a little easier than doing a flat one, because a flat one requires 3 cuts. So it's just one cut, but it has to be cut just right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start that cut. I'm going to actually help you see this. Okay, so I visualized the square. So what I'm going to do is, this is where I'm going to go. I'm going to stop right about there. Now, the reason this is important is because when you go to pleat, I'll show you that in a minute. When you go to pleat this, you need an even amount of fabric on both sides of that post. So if you cut it, if it's not cut right, you don't have enough to pleat or fold under. Okay, so now I'm going to show you this to finish off the back on this side at least. I'm going to trim. So it's always good that you have to trim a pleat rather than trying to work a pleat, which is almost impossible that doesn't have enough fabric. So look at how nice that squares up like that. See that? I got this coming this way and this way, and then I'm going to get a pin tack back there. Pin tack. I'm going to come on this side of the post. I want to show you a little difference here is that what we're going to do is we're going to pleat this, tuck that cover back in, and we're going to give it a pull back. That's very important, a little pull back. So far we're not pulling this way. We're still pulling from the front to the back in this case. We're going to get another pin tack here. Okay. So now I want to show you on the sides. I'm going to trim this up a little bit. Some people like to come here, and I advise it, especially beginners, to pull this just slightly. This way you don't need as much stretching side on the sides because you've got a lot of the stretch back to front. I'm going to pin tack this. Oops. Tapping motion, remember when you're pin tacking. Okay, now this is very important. So as in part 1, we showed you that we're using a combination, we're using staples for this, but we're trying to minimize the staples. And these are only pin tacks, so these aren't going to damage the wood. These are coming out, but these tacks are heavier than a staple, or thicker. So just to review, in the first part 1, we were talking about trying to conserve the wood by using staples, because these are going to be used by the client. So we need to be practical too. So I'm going to go get my staple gun. So I'm going to show you this process here. You'll be doing the same on the other side as I'm doing here. But the object is I need to stretch this fabric with the pleat and a staple in the front so that I prep this whole side. Okay, so here we go. Try to get you a good view of this, because watch what happens. Stretching is an art within the upholstery world. So I have this folded, but notice how I fold up. It's up a little bit, so I'm anticipating 2 stretches there, one down and one to the front. Can you see that action? Down, front, okay? Down to the front. okay? See what it's doing to the whole side. If you do this properly and get that staple in the right spot, you are doing a couple of things. You're getting the pleat ready. There's going to be a pleat in the front. Be very careful if you use a staple gun at that point. And you're getting this whole side prepped. So this is ready to be all pin tacked this side. Now I'm going to show you the pleat here. You need to cut again. This is a little tricky for some people. I'm going to bring the light around a little bit just to see if you can see this cut, because it's dark fabric sometimes you can't see too well. But I'm to the right of that staple, and you make sure you don't cut into the front of the piece, so you're just cutting one piece, and then if this flaps, what happens is, you know when you did it right, if it flaps out on you like that, and then this gets trimmed. Let me show you this, see that? And then this gets pleated. I'll show you this. And you can tighten these pleats up just to make them look perfect before you staple, and that's the next step we're going to be doing with stapling. Okay, so let's leave that there. I'm going to show you another chair that I've done up to a certain point. Staple in between. If you're happy with your pin tacking, you're going to staple in between your pin tacks. Right? So and then you go and take the pin tacks out. So I did that all the way around this sheet, this seat. I have the pleat where I want it, all stapled up. I'm just going to go right around the chair. See how nice that looks? And I'm trying to minimize the staple work, but really, like in the front, I didn't need as many as I did on the side, because the sides have the curves. And on horsehair, you have to anticipate little pleats, which are fine. It actually adds to the character of the chair. It acts like a silk too, with the pull marks. But you have to tell your client that that's going to happen, to anticipate that. The best upholsterer in the world can't make it look like manufactured square furniture with linen, for instance. So it's part of the traditional upholstery that you're seeing here. Okay, so I'm going to put this down and show you. The next step is the trim, which is the final step. But what's interesting is that we're using a traditional trimming. I'll show you that in a minute. I already got this started. So this is very traditional. This is gimp. Call this gimp. And these are gimp tacks. These are actually 6-ounce gimp tacks. Okay? So what I've got, I have this already started. I wanted to show you and put one of these in. So I start in the back corner here, and I picked about every inch and a half. I say that because this is all handwork and this is done by eye. Do not take my tape measure, because the endearing part of this, like little puckers on the side, is that I did it by hand. Some of the most fancy automobiles in the world, brand new, have leather work that is actually purposely, the leather stitching is purposely shown to be hand stitched. I can make these tacks perfect even by eye, but I don't do that because I want people to know this is all done by hand. So I started here with the fold over and the gimp, got one tack in, and I pulled it this way and got another tack here, and then I spaced them out as even, well, by the eye. So what I did here is I came around the post. I'm going to be filling these in with gimp tacks. I came down here to this corner. I did a little fold. That's pretty easy. The gimp is very flexible. So when you fold around the corner, you just come like this, and you hold your thumb here, and you just kind of bring it over like this, and you get a tack in there. It's that simple. I wouldn't miter it. Some people miter it. Mitering I don't think looks as good. So I went to the corner here, went here, and I pulled it here, and I got another tack here. Then I'm going to go back and fill in all the gimp tacks. Okay, so here's my gimp tack. A little warning, don't use your magnetic end of your hammer for your gimp tacks. It doesn't work. Use your hammer end and just tapping motions. They're long, so they might, just like that, small tapping motions are better. I'm going to do one more, and this is going to go all the way around, and we'll be done. But that will be it. Biedermeier chairs, original style. And we're just gonna tap, tap, tap. It wants to turn on you, so you have to adjust your hand. Tap, tap, tap. And as simple as that. So here's the finished product. If you notice the give tacks look a little shiny, they will tarnish and blend in black to the color of the horsehair. And there you have it. I want a special thanks to the conservator here, Melissa Carr, at Masterwork Conservation in Arlington, Massachusetts. And so long for now from Upholstery on Broadway here in Arlington, Massachusetts.